Greetings, greetings, greetings. I hope you all had a chance to listen to that wonderful song by Damian Marley, Speak Life. It's one of my favorite songs. I've actually just rediscovered this song. I used to listen to it a while back, and I just thought it was really apropos for tonight's class or tonight's talk on Maa't Philosophy Part 3. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. So if you're in the chat, can you just let me know if you can hear me and see me okay? All right, good, good. So as always, I'm going to start by doing our libation. And so, of course, the libation is the way for us to open up officially by honoring first and foremost the Supreme Divinity, and then all of those cosmic forces, the Neteru, and those other entities that help to sustain our life and to help Ra keep everything moving. And then, of course, we pour libation in honor of the cosmic forces. Well, I already said the cosmic forces, the energies of this realm, and then we pour libation for our ancestors, both those who were martyrs and then those who are our personal bloodline ancestors. So I'm going to jump right in because we have a lot to go over tonight. Dua, creator, the creator and sustainer of life. You go by so many names. I thank and I honor you for the breath of life. I thank and honor you for this opportunity to share your divine wisdom. I pray that your peace, your love, and your joy may fill all of us, help us to restore this planet. I pour libation in your honor. I pour libation in honor of the Neteru, those divine forces, those cosmic principles, those principles that live within us. I honor you all for your nourishment, for your wisdom, for your love, for your energy that you give us to help us learn how to live our lives as divine beings. I pour libation in honor of all of the Neteru. I pour libation in honor of all of those entities and forces that work endlessly on helping to restore and maintain Maat. I pour libation in honor of water, fire, earth, air. I pray that those elements be purified once again and in divine alignment. I pour libation in honor of all of those souls that came here and lost their lives trying to make this place a better way, a better place. All the martyrs, the freedom fighters. I pour libation in honor of all of you. I pray for light, peace, and healing for all of my bloodline ancestors. I say, oh, the cat. All right, see if I can get that back centered. All right. All right, so dua to all of you who have decided to spend your Sunday evening with me and the divine to go over Maa't Philosophy Part 3. And I think this is just going to kind of like swing back and forth, so I'll just kind of like let it hang to the side. I'm so excited. I hope you all have had a chance to listen to Part 1 and Part 2. If you have not had a chance, I encourage you to go back and listen to Part 1 and Part 2. They are all, of course, in alignment. So tonight we're going to go over the next precept. So let me go ahead and jump in and share my screen. Just give me a second because I was trying to do fancy stuff with my screen. So let me make sure I can figure this out really fast. Stop sharing. let's see this PowerPoint. Okay, let me just swap these. Just bear with me. All right, we're just gonna have to keep it like that. All right, so I was hoping to do something a little different, but it's not quite working. Just give me one more minute. Let's do this. Okay, that should be it. So, do one last thing. All right, I don't think. Try one more time. Okay, can someone let me know if you can see my screen? Like I said, I was trying to do something different with my screens, and I tested it earlier, but can you see the screen? And it should be a picture with me doing this, and it should say Dora Preceptors, Teachers, and Scholars. Okay. Let's see if I can split it. Sorry, hold on. Should have just left it how it was. All right, I think I got it now. Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you for being patient. I know your time is precious. So always want to start out by saying thank you, adorations to all of the scholars and teachers, preceptors, people who have taught me and worked with me over the years. I just want to always give them a quick shout out. All right, let's jump in. All right, so I just want to do a really quick recap on the whole concept and construct of Maat. So like I said, I hope you had a chance. If you haven't, go back and look at the first two lectures on this topic. So Maat is essentially, and I'm not going to get into the glyphs because I want to get into the new material, but Maat, when we look at the glyphs, it's basically explaining to us in full detail what the essence of Maat is. So it's not just a word, it's a construct. And so Maat is divine offerings of sustenance in the form of divine wisdom, order, truth, and law. And in our last two lectures on this subject, I spent a lot of time and energy going into explaining the construct of divine wisdom, divine order, and truth, right? So that we can, hold on, I just want to make sure. Can you all see my screen? Can someone just drop a note in the chat letting me know? Because I saw some no's. I think that was from earlier. Should have checked before I started talking. Okay, great. All right. So, like I was saying, I spent a lot of time explaining divine wisdom, divine order, truth and law in a very practical way so that we can begin to start plugging these constructs into our own psyche so that we can use them to help not only make ourselves in more alignment with Maat, right? So that we can start transforming to our most magnanimous and powerful selves, but also to help humanity as a whole do the same thing. And so Maat also includes this concept of the divine cosmic principles that sustains creation, right? It's the very essence. It's the fabric of creation. If there's no order, if there's no structure, then there's chaos. And so the creator is very intelligent. And so Maat represents the intelligence of the structure of the creator that allows for life to continue. And so it's also the underlying essence of everything in life. And so we really need to understand Maat and know how to utilize it in our everyday lives. All right, so now we're going to jump into precept 4. We've already done precept 1 through 3. Those are in the other lectures. And so again, I'm not going to go into the full brunt of the glyphs like I did with Maat, because we would be here, for just too much of an extensive amount of time. So I'm just showing you what the translation is, the transliteration is, and then how it translates into English. And so we all should know by now, if you've been watching the videos, that this symbol here, which is a door bolt, is on, and on translated to English is no or not. And then we have this symbol. It's actually two symbols in one, and it's mum, and it means to kill, slay, to end a life in a violent way. And then this symbol here is just a person sitting. And so this is the glyph for or and it translates to I or me. And then we have, and then again, if you haven't listened to the other lectures yet, so we're looking at a cursive, which is like a shorthand version of the hieroglyph. So it's sometimes hard for you to make out what's actually being drawn here. You kind of like have to know how to navigate between the two. And so then these glyphs here transliterate to sep and sen, which means men and women. And so we translate this precept, or, with working with it, this is how the translation came through for me. I will not or have not slain men. I will not have not slain women. So we can, just say men or women, but I like to be very clear, because as you'll see as we go through some of the glyphs, there's some little nuances there that have to be understood so that something isn't excluded. And so when we think about these precepts, we always have to first say, is it really feasible for me to follow it easily based on societal law, right? And so we always look at what's going on in society and how the societal influence, how it can either influence us to be in alignment with the precept or actually be in disagreement with it. And so when we think about this particular precept, it's not just I haven't murdered someone, right? I haven't killed anyone, right? We have to think about it from not only an individualistic perspective, but from a global perspective. Because there's ways that we can be contributing to the demise and death of other people indirectly and don't even know it. And so I wanted to first focus on this construct of survival of the fittest, which is something that we pretty much learned very early on in Western culture, right? I remember going to school and learning about this Darwinism concept of survival of the fittest. And it can mean different things to different people. But when we look at Western culture and how it has basically controlled wealth and other people, it's this construct that it kind of like bases its ideology off of, right? Survival of the fittest. So the fittest can mean the most cunning, right? If you can come up with ways to trick people out of their land, trick them into hating themselves and being your slaves or whatever, that's also under the umbrella of survival of the fittest. It's not just brute force. And so when we look at society today, we see that Western culture is very much into doing whatever it takes to survive, and that includes murder. When we watch movies, we see all the time. I mean, we're so immune to it. We see how presidents get people killed, whistleblowers get killed, their families get killed. I mean, there's so much murder ingrained in Western culture that by the time we're 14, we're pretty much desensitized. And so that means that it increases the likelihood that we can become murderers, right? Under the right conditions and circumstances. And so that's why, again, we want to look at how society is encouraging or discouraging the correct behavior. And so what we want to start doing is moving away from this construct of survival of the fittest, right? By any means necessary, as long as I'm good, as long as my family is good, as long as my children are good, I'm good, right? Because that kind of thinking, that vibrational frequency leads into this construct, right, of survival of the fittest, which leads to murder, right? So there's just layers to this. And so we want to start thinking about how can we tweak our ideology to be more in alignment with survival of the all instead of survival of the self, right? And so again, we want to start holding the societal enculturation and the law accountable for our inability or ability to easily live in accordance to divine law, divine nature, right, and divine order. And so, as I was getting at, that construct that we're taught early on in life is one, it's a murderous mindset, right? And if you look at the history of America and Black people in particular in America, we have had to constantly live under this fear of being murdered for very simple, reasons, as if our life is less important or less valuable than someone else's. And so out of this mental space, out of this construct of survival of the fittest, we develop this subconscious need or desire, right, to be only concerned with individual gain. But the goal now, if we are sincere about trying to help make the world a better place and vibrate on a higher frequency, should be, how can I start moving away from this individual gain line of thinking into a collective gain? We want to start thinking, how can I get out of this ethnic group survival? And even for me, this is a challenge, because after going through Jim Crow and all the things that we've gone through and our ancestors have gone through, there's been times where all I want to do now is work on, Black survival. But when you start moving from a higher perspective, you even move past that and you think about humanity's survival, right? Because we all need to work together. We want to move out of this mindset of raping the planet to preserving the planet. We want to move away from this construct of manipulation, right? And so we know, as I mentioned earlier, in Western ideology, we learn that if we can be cunning, we can actually get ahead, right? If we can manipulate people to give us what we want and do what we want them to do, then, that increases our chances of getting things that we need. So instead of that, we want to start moving towards being more cooperative, right? Cooperating with one another, trying to figure out how can we cooperate within the family. That's where we start. Today we have so many families that's, always tied up in frustration, negativity. How do we start learning how to cooperate within the family? A lot of murder takes place amongst people who know each other, who sometimes at one point claim they love each other, right? So again, we want to see where these kind of behaviors stemming from. And it's stemming from this programming that we don't really understand is running in our subconscious and unconscious mind. We want to move away from using brutal force, and also demanding that society move away from using brutal force, right, to control people, especially when people are trying to stand up for something righteous. And then start developing the ability to compromise, right? These are the kind of things that we should be teaching our children in grade school, as opposed to survival of the fittest. Because if that is the ideology that they're going to grow up with, then they're going to not only run the risk of developing behaviors and characteristics that create to the chaos and the confusion and negativity, they're going to open themselves up to receive that negativity as well. Then, this unnecessary death that comes out of this construct of survival of the fittest, right? There's been so many wars on this rock, on this planet, that was unnecessary. And so we want to move more towards demanding that governments have more of a preservation of life ideology, right? So that we can also begin to have that same type of ideology. That's what we need to demand. That's what we need to say. We need to have this taught in our schools, right? This is what we want to start seeing in our entertainment. So we already know, if you've been following lectures, that everything under survival of the fittest falls under APAP, which is the chaos, right? Which is what causes all the hostility, the negativity, the unhappiness in the world. Versus Maat, which is why I'm here, trying to help promote Maat in the world in whatever small, little, humble way that I can. And so, I hope you can see this. It looks really small on my end, but this is just a list of some of the top statistics associated with different wars, right? And so how many times have we stopped to say, well, let me see how many people died in any of these wars? And so we have World War II, 120 million people was estimated to have been murdered. Right? I mean, that's that's more important, right? We need to start working on that if we want to start work on this individual thing, right? The little homicide up the street and stuff, right? Yeah, we need to address those too, but let's understand where it's stemming from. It's stemming from a much larger problem, right? If these are the kind of societies that we are citizens of, then yeah, we are probably most likely going to be more homicidal, right, than peace-loving. And so we have the Mongol conquest, 57 million people suspected, to have been murdered. And then, there's other wars, right? We have hundreds. I mean, the numbers are astonishing when you just take a moment to look at it. And so then we have to say, well, we want Maa't to be in the world, but how do we stand up against this kind of stuff, right? America just recently started pulling their troops out of places, right? So again, these are just things that we want to start thinking about, how we can make little changes, even if it's something as simple as writing a letter to the government, making phone calls. It don't have to be something that drastic, but at least we know that we're doing our little part to help promote Maa't on a societal level so that we can begin to do it on an individual level more easily. So homicide continues to rise, right, in the U.S. cities. This isn't anything that most of us are not familiar with. The U.S. Saw an estimated 4,000 extra murders in 2020, right? So again, if we're not actively doing things to help fix and promote Maa't, then these numbers are just going to continue to increase. And so then there's another piece to this that we don't really take into consideration, right? So when we start looking at who's really participating in the homicide, who's at the losing end of this, like who's getting it the worst, we see here that Black people, right? This is just in the United States in 2019, that people of color, even though we make up a very small percentage in this country, some will argue that we are like 10%, maybe even less. Some will argue a little bit more, but either way, we make up such a small portion. But when you look at a lot of the negative attributes, the negative statistics, we usually are at the helm of it, right? And so you see here that 7,484 people were murdered, were Black people that were murdered in the United States, even though we have a very small population in comparison to whites and other ethnic groups. And it's not just here. When you take a global snapshot and you look at murder, around the world, Africa is also really high, right? Africa is at 12.5%. And if we just looked at America and we know that America, we're the majority of the murders, then you got the African Americans, the Black people in America, then the Africans. What does that mean, right? There must be something going on, something sinister that's helping to contribute to this kind of self-destructive homicidal behavior, right? This murderous behavior. Not only is it's not just in Africa. When I start looking at the top countries, the top 15 countries, right, that have the highest numbers of homicide, they were mostly countries, again, where melanated people are, Black people. Jamaica, right? And we're talking about top 15 countries, right? Lesotho, Belize, St. Vincent, I was actually surprised about some of these numbers. I thought Belize was, pretty peaceful. South Africa, right? St. Kitts, all these places, Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Brazil, St. Lucia, Dominica, right? So again, is it just enough to say that people don't commit murder, right? Stop killing each other? Absolutely not. We have to look and see what are the contributing factors that's giving rise to this behavior. And a lot of it has to do with oppression and white supremacy and the breaking of other Maat precepts, right? As we talked about in previous talks and as you'll see as we continue. And so those of us who are sincere about trying to make the world a better place in whatever capacity that we can, we need to be familiar with this type of information so that we can kind of like try to figure out how we can make our little contributions, right? So I wanted to share this from Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing, and this is one of the reasons why, for me, pouring libation is very important, because when I thank the martyrs and those who actually dedicate their life to trying to help make this planet a better place, pouring water and saying their name is the least I can do. But it's more important that we try to carry their legacy on in our deeds, right? That we are continually, every day, we should be trying to evolve a little bit more, right? Every day that the Creator gives us breath, we should be trying to raise our vibration a little bit higher, right? And so Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing says that, and she was a black behavioral scientist, right? And a psychiatrist. She says that racism, which is white supremacy, is the local and global power system and dynamic, structured, and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol, formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response, as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people, activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth, a planet upon which the vast and overwhelming majority of the people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow, by white-skinned people, and all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. So we if we have to understand this kind of mental illness, right? Because we're talking about a mental illness. If as long as this mental illness is still prevalent, we are not going to be able to promote Maat philosophy, right? Society cannot continue. It cannot survive without Maat, right? And hopefully from the other two lectures, we're kind of like getting that now. And so if this is the nucleus, if this is the crux of a lot of the murder, this is the homicide, then this is what we have to deal with first. And so that's why I put it in here, so that we can see the complexity and the layers of what's involved in something like a simple precept, I have not committed murder or do not commit murder. And then when we start looking at who's being murdered, how, why, and all that, then we say, okay, well, we have to address it from a societal perspective. All right. Precept 5. On, protect, right? To destroy, diminish, harm, injure, reduce, steal. Teb, a measure of grain. And this is for plural. I will not, have not destroyed, or I will not destroy, diminish, cut off food supplies, or that which sustains life. Again, right? So what are we talking about? When I used to hear other people talk about these precepts, and I would say them, oh, I have not done this, I have not done that. it was just a personal thing. And so it really didn't start resonating with me on a deeper level until I started working on this lecture series, right? So people will say, yeah, I haven't destroyed any food supplies or anything like that, right? But do we really understand the fullness, of the implication behind this? So when we do things to pollute the land, right? I've seen people throw trash right out their window of their car, right? Driving our cars, buying all of our bottled water, and throwing the plastic bottles in the trash, right? We are all, I guarantee you, contributing to land and water pollution, which essentially ends up leading to that precept, right? Let's go back. Because if the land is toxic and the soil is toxic and the water is toxic, then we're going to have issues where people can't grow food, right? And so crops have been destroyed. We've seen things like that happen. And so as long as we are plugged into the capitalistic society and not really taking time to see how our footprint and how our behaviors that we consider to be normal contribute, then we're just, again, like I said, we're just silent contributors. And as the planet goes through its transformation process to purge, then, we should get caught up in that as well. And so if we don't want to, right, because we want to try to start making contributions, then it's simple things like that, right? Stop buying bottled water. Start drinking, water in a canteen or something like that. There's ways. It's not for me to tell each person. It's for us to start being conscientious of things and then working on it. We know that we have borders, right? We support that. I mean, when all of the Haitian people were coming in a couple of weeks ago and the Mexicans come in, I've heard plenty of people say, yeah, they need to go back. And, Americans start complaining and we don't need any more people in our country and blah, 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 right? Again, this is a mindset of APEP, of chaos, right? That's not in divine alignment, because borders are not Maat, right? Not in the way that they've been set up. It's like if I am restricted to this area and my area goes through a drought, right? Or some kind of cataclysmic, natural disaster, like in Haiti, why should I have to stay there? Like I can't stay there. I can't live there. I can't grow food. But because society has set up, right, under Western ideology, borders and cutting up the Creator's planet, how they see fit, and forcing people to live and stay in certain places, right, as they see fit, it creates these situations where people don't have access to food supplies, right? So you see how this can become very, very much of a society problem. And so if I'm sitting home in my house and I'm watching news, and I'm like, yeah, those Haitians or whoever need to go back. I'm giving in. I'm feeding into that APEP chaos negativity through my thoughts and my energy vibration because of my ignorance, right? Because I don't have the capacity to see things from a higher perspective, from a Maatian perspective. And so, yeah, I am contributing to someone else's, demise, because I support a system that stops people from being able to leave their quote unquote country or their island or whatever when it's no longer inhabitable. I mean, that, right? That doesn't even make sense. So there we have it. Like, how many of us can say that we have never contributed anything that has helped with water pollution, right? We can't. We throw our trash out in the street. Sometimes some of the trash makes it down the sewer, because we're not even thinking about it. We're not conscientious of it. We just want to blame the oil companies and, when there's big spills, but yet we go and buy the oil and the gasoline to fill up our cars. I mean, how many of us even boycott or stop going to the gas companies that are known for polluting and spilling and leaking, right? There's companies that actually go to other countries like Ecuador and they dump their toxic waste there. Do we care about that? Do we say, "Ooh, I need to find out what companies are doing things like that so I don't give them my money, I don't support them"? So, just giving us some things to think about, right? Because again, the reason for this series is because a lot of us are understanding that the world is going through a transition and we have reached the pinnacle, well, probably not the pinnacle, but we're almost reaching the pinnacle of lowliness and degradation. And with that comes retribution. And so for those of us who don't really want to be caught up in a retribution, we have to want something different. We have to want Maat. We have to stop living in the comforts of this Maat system, this apex system, and acting as if we're not contributing to it. All right, precept 6. So we all know that that's no. We have chabet, loathe, evil doers, dislike, hara is plural. And then we have I or me. So we have I will not, have not practiced evil, or I will not practice evil, which can include negative magic, loathing, horrific, and disagreeable acts. Also with the dislikes in here, I wanted to add, I will not be controlled by my dislikes, because this is important when you get into Kemetic philosophy and start reading the scriptures and Proverbs. You learn a lot about how our dislikes, the things that we don't like, drive us to do negative things, right? Like people, we don't like people. And so we have negative thoughts and do negative things, which can be classified as, evil, an evil practice, right? There's something called the evil eye. I've had to deal with this. People don't like you for whatever reason, and that negativity that they have just oozes through their eyes, and that vibrational frequency, if you don't know how to protect yourself from it, can actually bring you down and, make you feel sad and depressed or sick. And then we have people now that are really practicing negative magic. And when you turn the television, all you see now is magic shows. And everyone's like all romanticizing with, man, I want to be a witch or a warlock. I wish I could just, think somebody into oblivion, right? Somebody cut me off on a highway and I could just like snap my fingers and their car turn over. I mean, can you imagine if we had access to that power, which we can develop it once we start aligning ourselves with Maat fully and manifesting it. But we shouldn't have it if we can't even control our emotional reaction to things that we don't like, right? Which is usually the root of people doing dark magic and black magic against other people. So this precept is talking about all of that, right? It's being very clear about this construct of practicing evil, right? Conjuring up negativity, right? Sending it out towards other people, right? Loathing, getting into that negative, disagreeable energy, right? And sending that to people, right? I'll tell you a quick story. I mean, I've had a woman go pay someone to work what they call obia on me, which is negative magic, because she was envious of me, right? Because I was married to a Jamaican and she was Jamaican, and she didn't like me as an American being married to a Jamaican, and blah, blah. So I caught wind of it, but she actually went as far as trying to work negative magic to have me murdered, to have me killed. Can you imagine that? Right? Going back to other precept. So this is a very important precept. So we have to be careful about how we're thinking about people, because if I'm thinking hateful, negative thoughts, I am sending that kind of energy out into the universe. And guess what? It has to come back to me. So since I'm still alive and that work didn't work against me, I wonder if she's still alive because, she had to get that back. Or maybe someone else that she loved might have gotten that negative energy because I didn't receive it. But it had to go back, right, to its sender, its source. And so, again, we have to think about the societal law and the societal influence. Right now, society has this social setting now where people want to be magical, right? A lot of people now are fantasizing about it because it's all over the television. I mean, I can't go through Netflix and not see all of these different series. I mean, I'm going through some older movies, but there's all kind of stuff out there now. The Witch, this, The Conjurer, Harry Potter. Everyone is just romanticizing about getting into this negative, practice of magic. If you have not purified your consciousness and purified yourself to be in alignment with Maat, and you want to practice magic, then there's only one type of magic that you're going to be practicing, and that's going to be negative magic, right? If you are not working towards purifying yourself and being in divine alignment, right? I tried to watch these, and I could not. So we also have to take into consideration that even if we're not actively practicing dark magic, but we're sitting home watching these shows, we're supporting these constructs, are we not? Some of the things that they're doing in some of these movies and shows are real things, right? They're saying spells and casting spells onto the audience. They're speaking in Latin and people don't know what they're saying. They're just sitting there in front of their television, taking it all in, right? So again, we may not know how to conjure up and do negative magic. I don't want to say black or white, negative magic, but we're supporting it because we're sitting home watching all of these shows, and we're not watching them from an analytical perspective. We're watching them to be entertained. So we're supporting these constructs. So that's how we're contributing to that precept being not followed on a societal level. Right? More of these insidious, people love these kind of movies. They can make 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. All right. Getting to precept 7. And what time? So we're not going to make it all the way to precept 9. So this will be probably the last precept. We have on, no, not, tie, which is to seize, take, carry off, grasp, lay violent hands on, ravish, to steal. Then we have this, which we know now is I. Then we have kept or ketu to make it plural, because we have these 3 dots here, which makes it plural. So things, objects, subjects, matters, affairs, business, facts, points, concerns, causes, objects, including abstracts. So you can't really see what this symbol is, but it's a hetep. It's a scroll wrapped up. So this is a determinative for something that's abstract. And so if you've listened to or read other people's translations of these precepts, you will probably only come across this as being translated to, I have not stolen from the gods, or stolen the things or objects that belong to the gods. Now, for me, that never resonated with me for a couple of reasons. For one, being immersed in Kemetic mysticism and spirituality, the misnomers and the misunderstanding that the Western Egyptologists have and continue to promote are not in alignment with the energetic output and frequency of the people. And so, because I've been immersed in the culture and living it and working with it, they were not caught up on objects, right? Physical things. You know, people think that they were because they didn't understand the symbolism behind the funerary rites and things like that, and some of the things that they were reading and seeing. So my translation is different. My translation of this is, I will not or have not seized, taking with or without force, so taken with or without force, ravished, carried off, grasped, or stolen those things, tangible and intangible, that belong to God or the Creator, including divine constructs and concerns. So, even though you can't really see the glyphs that clear, these two right here translate to nectar, right? So it's not plural. There is a way to write this so that it means gods and goddesses or Neteru. And they did not write it that way because they are speaking solely about the supreme divinity, the Creator. So there are no objects, right? Physical objects like gold pots and jewels, right? Because when you read other people's translation, they're talking about people who went and stole the jewels from the graves and things like that. And that's their understanding of this precept. That has no bearing on anything, right? That would mean that the Creator is very petty and needs, physical objects from us, which is very much not the case, right? So what are we talking about? We're talking about a higher construct, right? This is letting you know that there has to be a mindset of understanding that everything belongs to the Creator, right? Everything. Even ideas. People think, oh, I got this brilliant idea. It's my idea. Let me go patent it, right? It's not even yours. Everything belongs to the Creator. Everything. Even if we take two things and mix them together and say, oh, I have a new creation. Everything still comes from source, comes from the Creator. And so this precept is helping us to understand this necessary mindset, right? So that we are not moving in time and space, right? From that perspective of this is mine, let me acquire this is yours, because that leads to greed. And greed is the fetter, right, that has gotten the world in the mess that it's in right now. And we talked about that already, right? So if no other precept is really understood, this is the one that I want people to really begin to understand, that nothing belongs to us, right? Our husbands, our wives, right? What do we do when our husbands or wives cheat on us? Oh, that's my husband, you're my husband, my wife, right? We lose it because we don't even understand this precept that nothing belongs to you, not even our children, right? I have 5 children. And all my life, I considered them mine until I started really working on this precept and getting the nuance and getting the full understanding of what's being conveyed here. They're not my children. Even though I say they're my children, they belong to the Creator, right? And so when we start thinking about that from that perspective, it helps us to kind of align our thinking, right, with Maat and not APEP. And so I loved being able to say not only tangibles, because the Creator is very much not in need of anything from us because everything belongs to the Creator. So it's not just about, physical things. We have things like Newton's law, right? we learn these constructs as children. Oh, these people created it. They put their name on it. This is the hubris, narcissistic nature of the Western mindset, because that mindset is so far on the other side of my eye that everything that comes out of it is in opposition of my eye. We shouldn't be teaching this to children. Everything is of source. Everything should be attributed to the creator, right? And they went as far as putting this in their books and totally disregarded all the other civilizations that preceded them, that clearly already had these constructs. Right? There you have it. It's very clear that this was already in use, right? So, and when we go and we look at the scripts and the writings, there's attributing these mathematical equations as belonging to them. And that's why they shared them with the world, right? Pythagoras studied in Kemet. This is where he went to learn, and didn't even have enough respect to honor the people that he got it from, right? Even though the people who he got it from attributed it to the creator. It's divine intellect, right? So these are the kind of things that, again, we want to start considering as we're shifting to move in alignment with Maat, right? How we think about things, how we see the world. Again, right? Look, this ideology is very important for the survival of the world, for the changing of the world, because Westerners did not have that understanding that nothing is to be possessed or owned, right? In the way in which we possess and own it, because it's all belonging to the creator, which means it belongs to all of us, right? Without that ideology, they were the first ones to go and say, oh, let's conquer the world and go and take this whole continent and split it up, right? And when they did that, it wreaked havoc, right? They went and used brute force to go and take over stuff that they had no business taking over, because the land mass and natural resources are designed to belong to everyone. They're designed to nourish the entire planet. When I watch nature, it's hard to watch it, because you see how the greed and the Maat behavior of so-called mankind is interfering with all types of life forms, right? Because of this ignorance and this isfet way of thinking and behaving. And we, as people who had enough and who want to help change the world, we have to start stepping up to the plate, right? And so when they split up the continent, which has the most precious natural resources, right, including the people who they continually try to murder, right, they took the resources, and as a result, became extremely wealthy. And that precept number 7, which is a special number, is explaining how something like this can even manifest, because of that ignorance and that misnomer and not understanding that nothing belongs to us, right? And so then going back to the survival of the fittest, right? So Western people, they're cunning, right? Oh, I can outsmart people. So what do? We won't patent anything that's found in nature, right? So we got all those elements on the periodic chart, right? We have seeds that were here when we came here. And so what do? They start mixing elements and creating new chemicals and mixing seeds and genetically modifying seeds so that they can patent it, so that they can claim ownership. And right, this is what they do. And because they're doing it from a place of greed and APEP, usually it's always counterproductive. So we have all these chemicals, right? This is a sample of a patent. Just start looking at patented chemicals that we use in society that are killing us, right? All these carcinogens, all these cancer-killing chemicals, because of this greed mentality. I want to create something that's mine and own it and patent it, right? You see how far down the rabbit hole being outside of that mental landscape of Maat within that precept can take you? look how far it's taken us as humanity, right? I mean, they are going so far, you know, we already know that they patent these monster genetically modified seeds. They're also trying to patent bees. And so there are people who are out here trying to stand up against this, right? That's Maat. Maat is saying, we know, you know, even if it's not effective in our lifetime, as long as we put forth the effort, that's what matters. Because if we don't put forth the effort and we support it, then like I keep saying, then we should be happy to receive whatever comes down the pipe. This is a big one, and this is all falling under this one precept, right? Because unnecessary stresses, right? How many of us, and I have had this issue, think that we are here to save the world, right? That precept is saying, the Creator is saying, like, you don't have to, it's all mine. The stresses is mine as well. Make your contribution, be in alignment with my eye, but don't feel like you have to carry the world on your shoulders, right? Don't hear all this and feel like, oh, you know, we just start getting into alignment with how we can. But understand that the Creator got this, right? That's what Maat ensures. Maat ensures that the Creator got this. That what goes around comes around, right? That if the people on the planet become cancerous and make the planet too sick, the planet has a way to get rid of us, right? That's all in Maat. So we don't really have to worry about that. But we don't want the planet to have to get rid of us, do we? No. So then we need to start doing what we can to support Maat, right? I hope you got it. If you got it, put it in the chat and let me know you got it. Right? So we don't have to worry about all of the stress. You know, we gotta, you know, put the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? And we don't need to be trying to give the world to someone else, right? Even my son, he says, "Mom, I want to give you the world, and I want you to have this and that." You know, both of my boys say that. And I'm like, no, you know, that's not your stress. You know, the Creator got me. I'm good. Right? And wanting to change the world by ourselves. We will change as a collective. Tapping into this show and doing other things like this and finding how you can start making little changes in your life, being truthful and honest with ourselves about how we're contributing to the Maa't in the world on a societal scale and then on an individual personal scale is what is going to help us change the world for the better. We may not even be around to see the fruits of our labor, but it's okay, right? As long as we put that positive energy and that effort into the pot, it's going to percolate. And then wanting to control the world, right? The Creator is saying all those things in that one precept. Leave it alone. It's all mine. It's all mine. I didn't create you for that purpose, right? So that is probably one of my most favorite precepts now that I've had the honor of working with it and working with the energy of Maat to see that precept from a much higher perspective. I'm like, whoa, I can let some of this burden down. And so I hope that that precept was as fruitful. All of them. I mean, all of them are great. But like I said, that's probably my new favorite for right now. And with that being said, I know I held up some time trying to get the technical difficulty squared out, but I did go over 11 minutes. And we're not going to get to precept 9. So again, show 4, we'll cover as many as we can until we get through all 42. Do anyone have any questions or would like to comment on anything? You can put it in the chat. Well, did you let me ask a question? So I just want to know, those who are on and who stayed on, did you find anything in this presentation useful? Dua Akartunre. Dua Asada. Makes sense. Dua Asada. And let me fast forward to the last slide, even though we won't make it through these. Man, so it's like whenever I don't get to do some of them, I'm like, oh man, because it was already like in my mindset, in my mental landscape to do it. So one of the last things I want to say is that, what are we doing? We're trying to make the transition into living in Maat practical. And so these are some things that I'm going to continue to recommend after each talk. So how do we begin to really make this information materialize and manifest in our lives? So you just simply start identifying and remembering those precepts that you know you violated, right? If you know you're doing some of these things, just like, okay, let me highlight that one in my mind and kind of like make it something that I remember. And then you want to use your hidden aspect of your mind, because your mind is always watching and witnessing everything that you're doing and saying, right? That's the part that's going to tell on you in the end when you're in the judgment hall, right? So we don't have to wait until then to start bearing witness to that aspect of our mind. It's there. We can just start watching ourselves and seeing when we are acting out any of these things, right? And then you start, like I have it here, right? Just use the hidden aspect of your own mind that bears witness to negativity stemming from you through your thoughts, feelings, speech, and actions to identify, and that should be your APEP contributions, right? No pressure, just watching. And then as you keep watching, then you'll start to be able to gently work on transforming the negativity into positivity. And I want to stress gently, because again, this isn't designed to stress us out. It's just every day I'm going to get up and attempt to make some progress in my attempt to move towards Maat. Yes, Dafina, may I share thought? Yes, you can type it, please do. I don't have like an ability to pull people into talk, so you got to put everything in the chat. Thank you, Lika Love. Everything was useful. And while Dafina's typing her thought in the chat, so the next talk will be on October 17th. And again, these are always archived, so they are on my YouTube page with all the other chat lectures, so you can watch them and please share them with anyone that you think would be open to the information. The more we spread the knowledge and wisdom of Maat, the more we will, make that's a way to contribute, right? That's another contribution to promoting healing for the planet and ourselves. Dafina, are you are you gonna put your thought in the chat? Okay. With my understanding of positive thinking and affirmations, I wonder the principles don't begin with I have and I will. I wonder, are you saying you wonder why the principles don't? I'm assuming you're saying with my understanding of positive thinking and affirmations, I wonder why the principles don't begin. Okay, with I have. And so, I mean, it all depends on the person who is writing the affirmation, right? It's in what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So the precepts are designed to have us become cognizant of our behaviors and our thoughts and our feelings, right? Everything that is going to contribute to the negativity of our lives and humanity, right? Under this guise of precepts. So, like, how do I affirm that I'm not going to commit murder without saying I will not or have not? I'm not just going to say, commit murder. So usually affirmations are more like the opposite. So they'll be more like I am love, I am peace, I am joy, right? So you are affirming something. So if you want to tweak affirmations, tweak the precepts in a way to make them affirming for you, you can. If you want to say, it's all the same, right? I am, right? Or I will not, or I have not. It's all really kind of like doing the same thing from my perspective. So usually an affirmation will start with I am, right? And the precepts, because they are divine laws, it's I have not or I will not. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? And just to let you all know, I will actually be starting Comedic Affirmations probably in about 2 weeks. I'm going to create another channel, and I'll just share and probably talk about it on this platform as well. But it will be kind of like what you are accustomed to. I'll have comedic music and imagery, and I will be speaking affirmations for people to repeat to help engender positive thinking and feeling and energy vibrations within your being. Dua for the comments. And Afina, I'm just wondering if I answered the question in any. I know it's more of a comment, but I don't know if that my reaction to it helped to make it more clear for you or not. It's just my perception on it, my perspective on it. Okay. All right. Well, Ankh Uja, Seneb, life, vitality, and health to all of you. May Maat continue to guide us and protect us and encourage us to find ways to vibrate on a higher frequency. I hopefully will see you all in 2 weeks. Dua again for sharing your time, space, and energy with me. Hatep.